So hello everyone. Thank you for joining.
Your mic is muted. I cannot hear you. I don't know if it's just me. Hi, Tolu.
Oh yeah. Are you sure? It's actually.
Just a minute.
Can you hear me now?
I think it's my mic. I muted. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear you now? Hi, Tolu. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can.
All right. Good afternoon.
All right then.
How was the
Hi.
holiday been?
It's been okay. It's been a lot of festivities. So yeah. You can see I'm still repping the Christmas spirit. So yeah.
Yeah,
Hello
I mean, so
everyone.
before we go into the conversation proper, okay. I don't know if there's a lag from my end or if it's from yours, but I'll try and pause it so that there is no break. All right, so I've heard Tolu speak, and let me say that I do not know of any better person, and this is me in all honesty. You know how they say that God just arranges things. So when I've always had the plan to have conversations with Q for a long while. I mean, as far back as January this year, but I got very involved with work and I couldn't do it. And sometimes early December, I was thinking, oh, I would like my first conversations to be about finance. And the first person that came to my mind when I was thinking finance was Tolu. But somehow, you know, she was not exactly someone I could easily reach because she was not in my immediate circle. But I had the opportunity of um, hearing Tolu take a session, and I went on my own way trying to get her. And by the time I finally was done with going around and round and round and round and round and round, eventually, it so happened that God again redirected my step, and here we are with Tolu on the call. And thank for the help of people. I mean, my wife, we have high equity of my wife. I think they all went to the same secondary school. That's why it's good to go to good schools. Not people like me that went to just joking. But yeah, Tolu, we're glad to have you here. This first edition of Conversations with you.
Thank you.
All right, so without wasting our time and just so that we go right into the conversation, we have 10 minutes and I know that we have a lot of questions. So I would start off by just reading of the profile of Tolu for those who have not, maybe you didn't see the flyer or you're not aware of a person. Now, the reason why you need to know who the speaker is to also help you set your expectations and also make sure that you are able to what's the word, get all the values that you can gather from this program. So Tolu Alade is an award-winning chartered accountant. She's a certified internal auditor and certified risk management professional. She's also very good with risk management assurance provider, and currently manages the financial and operational performance of companies within the portfolio of a leading private equity firm in West Africa. So talking about portfolio management, Tolu is an expert in that. So for those asking, well, where can I invest? She has a good understanding of all of these things, and I'm sure that you will get a good answer today. She serves currently as the Vice President Finance for the Covenant University. By the way, one of the best universities you can go to, Covenant University. I went to I do recognize that if you're looking for the creme de la creme of people in Nigeria, apart from where you confident finance for Covenant University Alumni Association for the Global Shapers Community Lagos Welfare Initiative, a charity project that aggregates clothing items for donors for distribution to the underserved community. They are largely in Lagos and Abuja. I'll talk about this in the end, but if you're looking to give out clothes to people, I mean, good clothes, not bad, good clothes that also maybe purchase new clothes and you want to help people in the underserved community, you should reach out to Generous Me. We'll help people in the underserved community. Once again, Tolu, we are glad to have you in today's session. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. So, as an introduction, today's topic talks about personal finance. What do you, so in your thoughts, when we say personal finance, what does it mean? What does personal finance mean? Um, what should we know about personal finance generally? Just a general foundation.
All right then. So I tell people something, and it's like treat yourself as an enterprise. If you were to have an organization or a business, or if you're even managing a company, how would you manage the finances of the organization? That is one way that you should also manage your personal finance. So when it comes to personal finance, for me, I see it as I am an enterprise as a person, and I should do whatever it takes to ensure that my financial resources, so from anything like my income, my expense, my asset, my liabilities as a person, properly managing them, not just for a sustainable lifestyle, but also to build wealth for the upcoming generation. I mean, I don't want my children to come into this world and suffer or live less than standard life. So I see personal finance as that way of managing the financial resources you have currently in a way that you're able to sustain your lifestyle, your current lifestyle, and then you're also able to plan for the future that you hope to get in the nearest in the nearest years to come, in a few years to come, and then also build something that is sustainable for your children as well to be able to assess when they are of age. So that's what personal finance is to me personally.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, that's simplistic but very deep definition. I think from what you've defined as well, um, I would assume that it means that one has to also be very conversant of the cash inflow, that is income and expenses, right? So how do we, a lot of us as people, we have a lot of, and some money by reason of salary for salary earners. For those that run businesses, they also to an extent get some income in for themselves, and they also make expenses. But oftentimes one of the major question is, because there's a lot of cash inflow and outflow, tracking it becomes quite tedious. What's the best way to ensure that we're tracking that income and expenses on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so I I think for some people, financial management is like an afterthought. It's not something people are
Hmm.
intentional about or deliberate about. I will focus more on making the money, but I will focus less on actually tracking how I spend the money. As long as when I need money, money is available, I'm good to go. And the truth is, it actually doesn't take a lot. It's just the same
Hmm.
way, you know, or periodically, if you own a car, if you use a car, okay, every 3 months or every few months, I need to service this car. It's not something you need to like write down or track or something. It's just something that because you're intentional about it, because if you don't pay attention to this vehicle, one day it will just give way on the road. So you consciously think about it.
Hmm.
You consciously think
Hmm.
about managing it, and oh, I'm about to enter into a pothole. For those of us that live in Nigeria, I'm about to run into a pothole. I slow down because if I enter it with speed, then it damages my car, and that's more repairs expense for me. That sort of intentionality, why don't we transfer it into also tracking how our financial life is? Now, let me take it back a bit. I'll talk about even physical health, right? We watch what we eat, we do exercises just to maintain our physical well being so that you minimize going to the hospital or even having a physical breakdown. But do we pay attention to our financial health in the same way? And it's not something that has to be a big deal. It's as little as getting, I mean, these days we all have smartphones, or most of us have smartphones. There are apps that we can use to track these things. Me personally, what I do is I use an app called Mobiles Finance. And what I do is immediately I incur an expense or I get an inflow. As long as I get that notification, almost immediately I am imputing it into that app. And it's just sort of become a lifestyle for me that I don't even think about it
Mm.
anymore. Some people that want to go the traditional way, for people that like journaling and things like that, they prefer the paper and biro or paper and pen avenue, which is okay. Anything that helps you in a way that is not very inconvenient for you, and it's just like it's just habitual. So it's very important to be intentional about tracking how you spend your money and how the money even comes in, because that is the starting point of any proper financial management. You cannot manage what you don't measure. And there are so many tools that
Mm.
you can
Mm.
use. If you want to use pen and paper, if you want to use an Excel document, if you want to use an app, whatever it is that you want to do. Some of my friends, I've encouraged them because of the fact that they find it difficult to just, okay, I'm opening this app and everything. Some of them actually carry like little notepads and pens in their purses or in their bags, and once there's an expense or something, they record it down. So it's just about being deliberate about recording these transactions. Just the same way, if you run a business, you are going to be recording your income, your expenses, and all of that. So you're able to track how you're spending your money. So the start point is to actually measure this thing and to actually start tracking and saying, oh, what did I spend? What did I spend on? Because at the end of the day, they are able to analyze where is the bulk of my money going to. If I want to spend less, what are some of the expense lines that I can reduce? What are some of the income lines that I can actually expand on? Because sometimes we even, especially for those of us that manage businesses, you might not really be able to tell which of your business lines are, bring, especially for entrepreneurs that, you don't have like a business separate from yourself, but you're running, maybe you're a service provider, you're a creative, for example, you don't know which of your services are the most, will I say, profitable for you and things like that, but you would not know if you're not tracking it. And even for students, I don't know
Mm.
if there are students on this call as well, is the bulk of your money coming from gigs, or if you're running a side hustle while you're in school, is the bulk of your money coming from your side hustle? It helps you to actually be able to channel your energy to those things that are actually helping you to bring in more inflow, and helps you to pay attention to what are the expense lines that I can cut down on. It would amaze some of, like some people to say, how much do I spend on dining out in a month? Like
Mm.
sometimes people don't actually realize how much they are spending on these things, and that's because they don't track it. How much am I spending on cabs? How much am I spending on airtime? Like these are
Mm.
things that they look very small, but by the time you aggregate them, you will be amazed at how much you're actually spending on this thing. I remember when I first started tracking my expenses, and I actually realized how much I was spending on cabs, and I'm like, you know what? I will be driving my car, I will be fueling it, because I realized if I fuel my car, I'm spending like 50% of how much I spend on cabs in a month. I'm like, this driving, it's you and I. Lagos traffic will enter it together, because what is this expense? And things like that. But I was able to do that because I was actually tracking it. And people have been asking what the app I use. It's MOBILLL. That's mobiles
Can someone help
finance.
type it
That's
in
the
the
app I
chat
use.
box?
Oh, fantastic. Yes. So that's the app I use personally, but there are a lot of other apps. If you go on iOS store or Google Play Store, excuse me, there are a lot of apps that you can use to actually track your income and expenses. And well, unfortunately, for those of us in Nigeria, some of these apps, it's difficult to link cards to them. So you have to manually enter them, but it's a discipline. For those in the abroad, you can actually link your bank cards to these apps, and then you're able to, like, once you get a notification, it automatically just updates and links the transaction to whatever expense lines you've already defined in the app.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, and thank you very much for that very thoughtful and insightful foundation. So, what Ola has just said to us, if you want to really grow well, it starts with the very basics, your income, your expenditure. You need to get that data right. You need to, what you don't measure, you cannot increase. And important that we know what we are making. I mean, just give an example of how much she was spending on cab and how that's knowing how much she was spending on it was able to help her reduce the cost. So please do well to take what she has said. Don't just listen. Very important. Make it an habit to, one of you to do that from your New Year resolution, that you will begin to track your expenses. If you don't learn anything in today's session, learn this very foundation, and I hope that you follow through with it. Now, the other thing is around savings, right? So oftentimes when we talk about personal, let's say I've now been able to understand my income and expenditure, and I am also beginning to try to say, oh, I want to make further grow my wealth, and I am looking at increasing my savings because I would like to, achieve a lot in life. One of the things that people have asked is that, is it possible? I mean, someone that is not earning so much. So people talk about saving, saving, savings. How do I even begin to save when I am not earning? Is there a possibility? Or can we also learn habitually how to save? Or do I need to earn a lot to be able to save? What's your thoughts on this?
So I usually tell people that there are so many ways you can increase your savings, but the two key ones that I think are very practical. Number one, reduce your expenses, and then number two, increase your earning potential. Those are the two key ways that I think about. Now, I mean, we hear of people that are earning just like, what do you call that thing? Average income, like the
Minimum wage?
basic, like the base, yeah, minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are people that earn the minimum. Yes, minimum wage. Thank you. There are people that earn minimum wage, and it's like, I mean, I'm earning 30,000. Where do I want to start saving from? And interestingly, I once mentored a student, a 200 level student in a university. How much does she get in a month for pocket money? About 10K. And she thought it was going to be impossible for her to actually be able to save. And she's like, I need to buy food, I need to buy handouts, I need to do this and do that. And I said, okay, you know what? Let's start from this. You're earning 10K in a month. What are the things that you spend on? Let's outline them. At the end of the day, we realized that there are months where she will actually spend like 10,200. Sometimes she can spend 9,900. And I said, how about we do this? How about you start saving 50 naira every month? 50 naira every month. For someone that earns 10K, 50 naira it actually looks insignificant. But the thing is, she actually thought she could not save on 10K. But when we started with 50 naira, 50 naira, it sounds ridiculous, but it's the habit.
Yeah.
And she started doing that. And at the end of, after 3 months, she was actually able to start saving 1K every month from 50 naira. It's amazing. So for someone that is earning 30K, I mean, these are family people, and it's completely understandable. You have responsibilities, you're paying rent. From people that actually even have kids and are living on minimum wage, they need to fend for their families, clothe their families, feed their families. How about 1 month? Just try to track how much are you spending on basic things, and try to reduce spending on things that are nice to have, right? If For example, do you have to take that bike from your bus stop to your house if it's 10 minutes walk and it's not late at night? Do you really have to? It's good exercise. How about you save that 100 naira every day or 50 naira every day? I don't know. I think bikes are like 100 naira. How about you save that 100 naira every day and look out for how much you'll actually be able to save in a month? So even if you don't do it every day, how about you say, twice in a week, I would walk from the junction to my house and I would save that 100 naira. So that's 200 naira every week. In a month, you've saved 800 naira. 800 naira out of 30K. That gives us roughly less than 25%. That's already 25% of your income saved in a month. It's that simple. It's just like that. So it's just about identifying those avenues and being intentional about minimizing some expenses. That's when it comes to expense management. Now, increasing your earning potential. If you want to save more money, make more money? What are the things you can monetize? Your skills. Can you help out people that are in need of something? Can you be providing services to people? Are there, additional, like, is there support you can give someone and say, oh, hey, I could help you do this? Are you there are people that, there's some people that they typically don't like, doing laundry and things like that. Is it something you can volunteer to start doing, right? And getting paid for it? It's like a side hobby because you enjoy doing it as a house chore, right? If you have friends that typically don't enjoy doing these things, there is really no shame in doing something that is gainful, right? It's a business venture. And before you know it, it starts to blow. And then you become a laundry enterprise from just doing this for neighbors, doing this for friends, doing this for family. You are getting paid for it. So it's not like you're doing like house help work or anything like that. But these are just the little things that count, that can be really helpful. And then for those that are in a larger income bracket, right, it also applies. There is always that next level. And everybody, no matter the level you are, and I'm trying to use like very baseline examples because typically I get questions from people saying, I don't earn so much. How do I become a better financial planner? And I just keep telling people, you start with what you have. You start from where you are. From there, you begin to grow. It's a process. Unfortunately, we are sort of in a microwave generation and everybody's looking for the fast means, fast life and everything like that. But it doesn't work that way. It's not usually sustainable. Growing wealth takes time and it takes discipline, and it's a habit that has to be sustained over time. And that's just the way it is. So you just have to start from where you are and then also have a plan and then keep growing with it each day, each week, each month, each year, and then you get to where you're going to. That's it.
If I was writing, I should have everything. At the end of this session, I'll be writing a book, personal finance. But, very thoughtful, and we've gotten a lot of insight as well. One of the ways to, improve your savings in summary, like she had said, is make sure that, you cut down on, unnecessary expenses and also increase your earning power. So it also took, going back to investment now, speaking about earning power, that would mean that the number one way to grow your investments or, exponentially is by investing in yourself. That's one of the things that I hear you say. So just before we begin to look at the other investment types, what's the potential? Because we're going to 2023, we are beginning to make our plans. What's the ROI? Or should I even? People say they don't have money, but what's the one thing? Now let's start with investment itself. What's the potential financially? Is there any potential in investing itself?
Investing itself is like the biggest investment you can make, because if all things go well, nothing happens mentally to a person. Whatever investment you put into your mind is never going to go away. Nobody can take it from you. Land appreciates, but it can be eroded. Something drastic could happen. Houses could be destroyed, especially where one doesn't have like an insurance policy, right? Assets can be lost. But one asset that you can never lose is your mental assets. And that's why it's very important to invest in oneself. Very important. So investing in knowledge, developing your skills, developing your talents. So whether it's your mental ability, or so for example, as a professional, I need to consistently invest in my person and grow my mental ability. What does that help me do? It helps me to be able to meet the needs of more people. It helps me to stay in tune with what's happening in my industry. The more versed or the more versed I am with what is happening in my industry, with what's happening, with other professionals, and growing my, my certifications, my credibility in the industry, the more I'm able to charge. Because now my level has increased, my level has stepped up. As an artisan, how are you investing in yourself? You're taking additional vocational training programs. something as simple as, oh, you're making leather bags or leather shoes, for example. You go for classes, attend vocational workshops by people that are doing bigger in the industry. You go learn what are some of their trade secrets, what are some of their creative secrets. You begin to adapt those things, adapt them with your own creativity. You know, your products are of more quality. You're using better resources, better materials, and things like that. But that's because you're learning, oh, how can I access these better resources? That's also part of investing in yourself. As you're doing the vocational training and vocational workshops, you're becoming a better handyman when it comes to the work of your hands. If you are a creative, you're taking creative workshops. You're a designer, for example, whether UI, UX, or even just a graphics designer, right? So whether you're in the tech space or you're just in the creative space, you're an art person, whatever it is, you are taking courses that are helping you to grow your skills technically, creatively. All these things are helping you to become a better person. What does that help you do? As you're getting better in being a graphics designer, you're doing more beautiful designs, it's catching the eyes of more people. More people will say, who designed this poster for you? I want to be a part of it. Who did this video for you? I would like to work with this person. You're already increasing your earning potential. And it's not an asset, but the thing is, as an individual, I believe that we are our greatest assets. But unfortunately, sometimes we really don't pay attention on ourselves. We pay attention on the outward things. But how about we start focusing on the inward? How can I build my mental faculty? How can I increase my creative potential? How can I increase my technical ability so that I'm able to add more value to people? The more you add value to people, the more they tell your stories to people, the more people are attracted to your business, to your skills, the more you earn. That's just how it works. And then another thing is sometimes we are lazy, and that's just the truth. We are lazy to develop ourselves. We are lazy to read, read books of autobiographies, people that have been in the space, people that have done amazing things in the corporate world, people that have done amazing things in the creative world. We are following the wrong things on social media. We're not learning the right things. What we feed our minds are the things that help us to grow. So these are all ways that we can invest in ourselves by taking technical trainings, by even getting mentors and learning from them, learning from people online, taking courses, reading books, even watching movies and shows that are actually, what's the word now, very insightful and relevant to your field. So if you're a lawyer, for example, are you watching things like Law and Order, NCIS, all those sort of things, right? It sounds very basic, but it's amazing the things you can learn from these things. I used to be a fan of Grey's Anatomy, and it's a medical show. I don't know if it's even still on till now. But even that I was not a medical person, I know the things I learned there. Even if some of them are really, aggravated, that they are not really true. But I'm just saying, right? Sometimes you learn these terms and then you see the way they are doing things. And these are people that are like in the Western world, right? It gives you an idea of how things are done there. And you might begin to think, well, how can I replicate that even in my field here and things like that? So these are all things that, can be very relevant. For example, someone that is in the fashion space, are you watching shows like Emily in Paris, for example? All those sort of things, right? Have you seen The Devil Wears Prada? It sounds very basic, but these are things that, we take for granted, but they actually do help to some extent. So it's very important to invest in yourself. Be very deliberate about investing in yourself because you're the biggest asset of yourself. And if nothing bad happens to you as a person, nothing can take away that investment you put in yourself. Money goes, that's the truth. Money is like a bird, it flies. It can come easily, it can go easily, it can be easily lost. But what you have up here can never be taken away, and you can always bounce back no matter what happens.
Very great. Very, very great. The number one thing to invest in, I've learned, is to invest in yourself, and you would always get great value. Like the return is sure. Now, when we look at other asset class, so say we've learned about personal finance, about tracking your income and expenses. We've learned about that no matter what you earn, you can save. Also, be more familiar about investing in ourselves via different means. What now that the person has invested in themselves and they now earn a lot, the question becomes, oh, I'm liquid now. I have cash in my account. I have money here and I want to save. I want to invest rather. I want to invest. I want to grow this money. I don't want to just be, oh, it's the income that I have. What can I do? Especially, in this current Nigeria where we're in a race between the return and the inflation. Like of course, I know inflation is also, global, but looking at how unpredictable the economic landscape has been in a while and also rising costs. What are the options? What are the investment class that people should begin to look at from your point of view?
Okay. So when it comes to investment, I typically talk about it in two ways. There are short-term investments and there are long-term investments. But the first point of call is to even identify what is your risk appetite. And risk appetite just means how I want to simplify it and say, what is the level of the heart that I have to chest if I lose this money? That is my risk appetite. So how far am I willing to go? Am I risk averse, meaning that I only invest in things that I'm sure I cannot lose? My principal is secure and everything, or am I a risk taker and I don't care? Because higher risk, higher return. So there are people that are very bullish when it comes to investment. I'm sort of borderline, but sometimes, I've made some crazy investment that I've lost, but it's part of the learning process. So it's as a personal thing, you need to identify what is my risk appetite. So if you're risk averse, then you might want to play in the space of money market, fixed income, assets. Those are things that no matter what, your principal is very secure to a very large extent. Then if you're a risk taker, you're looking at very long-term investments like stocks and all of that. Cryptocurrency will come into risk takers portfolio, right? And but when it comes to asset classes, so there are the short-term funds. There is the fixed income. There is the money market. Money market is beginning to pull up now. For a while, it was averaging about 4 to 6%, but these days they're now averaging back to 12 to 14%, which is fair. But like you said, inflation now begins to erode the value of Naira. So another thing I advise people is invest in FX. Dollars, for example, you can set aside funds to be buying maybe like $100 every month or something, whatever it is, just a particular amount, just so that you're able to diversify your portfolio, because it's very important for you to diversify your portfolio. You don't want to make all your investments in one currency, because Naira is not very stable, and that's just the unfortunate truth. So about 2 years ago, dollar was how much, like 400 and something. In fact, even last year, it was about 400 and something. What am I saying? Early this year, it was still exchanging at 400 and something, right? But today we're at 730, 740, So imagine if someone had bought $100 in April, for example. By now, that's almost 100% growth in assets, in just 6, 7, 8 months. So those are different investment opportunities. And then real estate is also a very good place to invest, but one has to be very careful. There are a lot of scammers in that industry. So always identify credible organizations that have licenses, that are registered, and then they have credibility in the industry, right? These are all things that can be considered when it comes to investment. And then there are also people that invest in the agri space. Agriculture is supposed to be the lifeblood of Nigerian economy, although it's still picking up, but there's been more intentionality and focus in that regard these days. So that can also be something that people can, look to. There was someone that, for example, I invested in some agri business last year, and then this year, I was just looking at the reports and everything, and it was very impressive. Although the market wasn't as great as it was envisaged to be, yeah. but it wasn't bad. I mean, even with a bad turnout, the returns were still very impressive, you know.
Interesting.
So when it comes to investment, one thing I always want people be very careful with all these quick money multiplying schemes. They are never real. If anyone is promising you returns that sound ridiculous, it means it is ridiculous. So let's be very careful in this race to, grow our money, grow wealth, and everything like that. Invest in things that you can identify the underlying assets for that business. If you cannot explain what the business does to a 6 year
5 years
old
old.
and an 85-year-old person, don't go into it. If you cannot say this is the business this company does, don't go into it. If they cannot provide their registration document, you cannot identify the face behind the business, don't go into it, because it's just to be forewarned. To be
Yeah,
forewarned is to be
I
beforehand, right? Yeah, so all of that. So it's very important to also be very wary about things we invest money in. Try to have an understanding of what you're investing in. And then there are also credible financial institutions, asset managers that you can invest with. Um, we can these are organizations that have been trained professionally to manage the wealth of people. So, and it's as little as 10K, as little as 5K. You can open an account to them. There are a lot of asset managers. I'm not going to call names so that I'm not I'm not, what's the word, advertising for anybody.
advertising.
But yeah, but you could actually just go check online. There are credible financial institutions that are asset managers. There are people that are trained to do the work. So you can just hand over your money to them. They will be the ones to manage your money on your behalf and everything like that. And then they'll just provide reports on, they invest in different asset classes, right? And based on whatever risk level you have given them to say, this is my tolerance level, is like pension, the way, according to your age is according to your pension class,
Yeah,
that sort of thing. That's the way they also work. So that can also be very helpful. Another thing I wanted to mention is, give me a minute, that came to mind now, but I forgot. Oh, yes. So part of creating wealth, I mean, even just beyond investing in all these assets, there are also things that we can do. Yeah, insurance, insure your assets, insure your life, insure your family, insure your health, insure your everything, insure everything insurable, because anything can happen. And what insurance does is it helps to take our minds off, oh, anything can
risk.
happen. Yes, they will take care of the risk. You just need to pay a premium. So whatever it is that is very important to you, make sure you're insuring it, whether it's your house or your car, your life. I always
Your
advise
laptop.
everybody should get, very important, right? Your assets, insure them, then also get health insurance. One way that people bleed is, I go to the hospital, I'm paying for this, I'm paying for that. Get health insurance, minimize your hospital costs, right, for yourself and your family. I see a lot of people message me and say, oh, I have hospital emergencies, I have hospital emergencies. I'm wondering, why are you having this many hospital emergencies, and it's actually eating deep into your funds.
Yes.
You don't have to do that. I've been to the hospital a couple of times this year and I never bothered about it, because I have insurance. So whatever it is that happens, I know it's taken care of. All I need to do is pay the premium at the beginning of the year or at the middle of the year, whatever it is, and I'm covered. Same goes for my family. So that sort of thing. Another thing is, for people that are not working in organizations that set up pension plans for them, as a business owner, set up a pension plan for yourself. It's a way that you're building for you're saving for retirement. So that's also a way you can save for retirement. And the thing is, all these pension plans, they go over time. So you are actually earning on the principal that you're putting into it. So insurance, pension
Pension.
plans, these are things that you can do to just save and grow wealth at the same time, beyond investing in the financial markets or real
Okay.
markets. Yes.
Okay. You've said a whole lot, and I want to unpack them. So I'll try to just be calculated with my questions so that you can also give everyone context about what you've said. You talked about the money market, but I'm sure some persons are wondering, what does the money markets, what does it mean? So if you can help unpack what you mean by money market, and then if you can give an example, you spoke about the fact that it's now sort of rebounding, and then we have about maybe 16% this year.
Yes.
So are you speaking about the Nigerian market, or are you speaking about foreign market? So which are you referring to in that number? And then just to
Also,
stay
I'm
on
at,
on the market as well. Okay, sorry.
no,
Final
please go
question on
ahead.
that. In terms of what tools one can use to engage the money market. So is there an app one can use to basically understand this more, or where we can also go ahead to better understand the money market? What would that be?
Okay, so money market is just a short term investment thing where you put your funds with a financial institution, and then you're getting returns over it. Sometimes it's accruing daily actually. Then it can be easily liquidated. That's the good thing about it. So most times people put their emergency funds in the money market because you can easily liquidate. For some organizations, they'll tell you there has to be a 90-day waiting period. So like the first time you're investing with them, you need to wait for 3 months before you can start withdrawing from it. But there are some organizations that will allow you invest today, you can remove your money tomorrow, sort of thing. So what happens is these financial institutions, they invest in different asset classes. That is their job. That is their job. They have trades to do that professionally. So they invest in these classes, and then they generate returns. And then based on how the aggregate performance of all the sectors or every other thing that they're investing in performs, then it fluctuates to give the returns on the money market fund itself. So that's how it works essentially. People like money market because it's sort of low risk. It's
Mm-hmm.
sort of low risk really, and your principal is safe.
Good.
So even if at all the interest rates are dropping, your principal is safe with money market. It's also just like investing it. Like another thing you can also invest in is treasury bills, the Nigerian treasury bills. So with that, it's like you're loaning money to the federal government for them to execute whatever project it is that they want to. It's fixed for a period of time, sometimes 180 days, 270 days, 360 days, and the longer the tenor, the higher the interest rate you're going to get. So what happens is when you fix your funds when you fix your funds in treasury bills, you get the interest. It's sometimes it's prepaid, so you get the interest, and then you can actually even invest it in something else, and then you get your principal at the end of the tenure. I'm sorry, you asked the second question
Yeah,
about the
examples of
rates.
so yeah, I asked about the rates, and then like what are the places where we can access this money
Okay,
market?
so for the rates, it typically fluctuates. The last time I checked, it was averaging at about 12%. I think that was about maybe 3 weeks ago or thereabouts. It was about 12%. Sometimes it goes as high as 14%. When the market was stable, that was like 2 years ago, we had as high as 18% in money markets. But then COVID happened, and then it dropped to about 2%, 4%, 6%. But it's coming back up now. Now we're having about 10%, 12%, thereabouts. Now, places
Awesome.
you can access them, there are financial institutions as well that run money markets investments. So they are, um, maybe I can give examples here, but I'm not
Yeah,
advertising
you
for
can.
anybody. These are just people that I
Yeah, so this
know.
is not
So there's,
financial. So just to put a caveat before you say anything, this is not financial
yeah,
advice.
it's
Do
actually
your
not
due
financial advice.
diligence. Yeah,
Exactly. Please do your due diligence before you make any investment. So there is AXA Mansa, there is ARM, there is Cardinal Stone. There are financial institutions like that are actually licensed to manage this investment, right? I think First Bank also has. There's the FBN asset managers as well. There's Stanbic IBTC also
yeah,
has. A lot of banks actually have this available. So yes, those are places you can invest money market in. Yeah.
awesome. Now, one of the things that Tolu mentioned while she was speaking is to have an emergency fund. I know that she didn't mention that earlier, but in your plans for 2023, I know God is protecting you. I know that you are covered by the blood of Jesus. But please have an emergency fund. The reason of emergency fund basically just helps you to, it gives you a caution of if anything, God forbid, nothing would happen. Apart from if you have access to insurance, fine, and all of those things. But want to have, an emergency fund. Maybe in the beginning, one that can last you a month, and then after a while, once you're able to save up to 3, 4 months. And if for any reason you need to invest that fund and you need to put it in a, sort of investment that she has mentioned, so that if you ever need to pull out the money, it's not something you have to wait a long while to assess. You can ask for it now, and then by tomorrow, the day after, or a week after, you are able to pull up that cash. So please put an emergency plan, an emergency fund as part of what you should be having as a person, as a family. Very, very important. All right, so let's go again now to some other investment class. Now, when we look at property, and we're beginning to look at the long-term effect, so we're gradually beginning to try to round up. So just before I ask the question, someone had asked the question about, there's election coming and what's the effect on dollars. This is what I can tell you without, blinking an eyelid, is that if you want to invest in any foreign exchange sort of investment, please go ahead, do your due diligence. The money, eventually, maybe when we, what's that word? When we remove this thing that's making us have, what's the word? I'm looking for the right word.
Subsidy.
Let's make, yeah, not subsidy, the fact that we're having multiple exchange rates.
Okay.
I can't find the right word. But when we
Yeah, I don't know
remove
the
the
word for
government
it.
is, it's not government deciding, it's not government deciding the actual money for which. What would
Yeah, it's the
happen is
market
the price
forces.
of the exchange rate will first go high. Of that, I'm certain. It might stabilize. Yeah, exactly. So if you want to go ahead, don't say because of election, like she has said, do your due diligence well, and then do that well. Now, the next thing I want to speak about, I want you to speak about is building generational wealth. We live in an age and time where people want to make money quickly. Like, so when people hear this, like with 5% annually or it's 10% annually, it looks like, oh, that money is too small, or 10% is like, can I not get 30%? Can I not get 40? Fall into ridiculous, what's it called, schemes that ends up following their money. How should we look at wealth? How should we look at investment? What's the compounding effect of, looking at something and then looking at it's not just 20 years or in the next 15 years, compound while, so that I can have that sort of asset class that I can bequeath to my child or to my children as a case. How should we begin to consider wealth, as a people?
Yeah. Thanks. I mentioned something earlier and I talked about the fact that this thing is a journey. A couple of them might have heard that it's the marathon or the sprint. And I also said, unfortunately, we live in a microwave generation where everybody wants to make money quickly. But the truth is, wealth that lasts generations actually takes a while to build. And we need to be patient. We need to be patient through the process. Sometimes we see people that are made and we actually don't know the story behind the scene. For some, it could be legitimate, for some is illegitimate, and then for some you really don't know how far or how long they've been on this journey, but you just see the result and you think, oh, I should be able to do this in a year. I should be able to build a house in a year. I should be able to. Different people have different paths. I mean, for some people it works faster, which is great, but then there are some people that it actually takes time, and we need to be patient through the process because that's the only way it's going to work. Now, one thing I advise people is, for you personally, how about you set your target and say, this is what I'm trying to achieve, considering everything that I have and where I am and what I think I have right now, where I can start with. This is the target that I have. And then you start working towards it. Then you begin to celebrate the small wins. As you're celebrating the small wins, you celebrate the milestones that you're achieving. It helps you to, it helps you to put things into perspective. But the thing is, if you don't have something you're working towards, any way looks like the way, and not all the ways are your way. I hope that wasn't confusing. But what I'm trying to say is we all have different paths in this journey to success and to wealth. So we need to identify what works for us and be steady in that journey. We need to stop comparing ourselves with others and then now start identifying, okay, this is what I have, this is where I'm starting from. Or at the end of half year 2023, this is the level I want to have gotten to. How do I want to get there? And then consciously start measuring, consistently up until that point. And then you can now measure and say, oh, how have I done with respect to my plan for this period? Sometimes along the way, we actually get pleasant surprises, and there is just this unexpected boom that happens. But that's like plus is benefit to the path you already designed for yourself. So in thinking about generational wealth, we need to think about it long term and say, this is something that is going to take at least about 5 years, 10 years for me to build. If it happens earlier than that, fantastic. But how about I'm kind to myself? Because sometimes we are in a rush and we put ourselves under so much pressure that we even break down trying to make this money, and then we're not able to enjoy it when the money finally comes. So how about we are kind to ourselves, we are patient with ourselves, as long as you know that you're doing the best you can in the most legitimate and honest way. It's going to come. It's going to come. That's just the way it is. And wherever it is that you are, manage your resources judiciously, be financially responsible, and just grow consistently. And you're going to get there.
Please confirm if you can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay. So I wanted to ask now, just speaking about inflation still, how should people engage with platforms like buy now, pay later? Now, what am I buy now? Because again, in trying to beat inflation, some of the two tools that I think I have found, buy now, especially in a place like Nigeria, buy now, pay now with 100,000 naira. You are able to buy the phone for 100,000 naira. Now, if you try to save, for instance, and you probably want to buy the phone in 6 months, the value of the phone might be about 125,000 naira, right? So when you use options like, and then you are able to, get the particular item you want to buy at the market rate of today, as opposed to maybe much later when inflation would have set in. Now, what's your thought about use? I think carbon runs. I think a lot of them, but I think carbon runs something of that sort. That's one. The second thing is as well is trying to beat inflation. I also think that what's the idea of people getting loans? I'm saying very intentional loans now, a place where because you want to do something that is quite major, and then you can take a loan upfront and then ensure that you've done that, and then you're repaying your loan, which is a fixed cost, and then most likely, if you're going to pay an interest, the interest you can easily spread it out. And one means by which I know a lot of people used to do it then back in the days, especially our parents, is the option of using cooperatives. Now, I think cooperatives are not commonplace. Because, for instance, with civil servants, what usually happens is the government is able to deduct it from source, and so it's safer for them to go ahead to access loan and get that kind of payments made for get the value that they want. So, for instance, you want to build a house, and then you can draw up times two of whatever amount you are saving with a cooperative. So, how can people leverage cooperatives, or if they are not currently in cooperatives, are there possibilities of cooperatives being created, or do you know of any that people can leverage? And also, what opportunities are there as pertains to buy now, pay later? How can we take advantage of these two possibilities?
Okay. So buy now, pay later. Um, I'm usually wary of it personally because sometimes I feel like it encourages people to buy things they really don't need. But in itself, it's actually not a bad thing because what it does is it helps you to manage your cash flow better. I mean, why should I put in so much capital into buying an asset when it's something that I can spread over a period of time. But that would only be advisable when it's actually something that I need. So, like you said, Carbon is an organization that actually offers this service. But one thing is you need to be very careful because they would tell you this is the rate, but some of them actually do this rate in a compounding manner. So it's very advisable to, and at the end of the day, you actually realize that you're working for somebody else because all the money you ever earn is going to go back into paying that loan. It's juicy when the opportunity comes. But when it is being played out, then you begin to realize that this thing is actually really eating into my finances. So whatever thing it is that one is trying to achieve, it's just very important to be very clear on the implications of that arrangement. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to switch devices because I think this is acting up. Just give me a minute, please.
Okay. While Tolu is trying to switch device, if you have any question now, questions that have not been answered, I have tried to summarize a lot of the questions that we got during the form, like in the filling out of the form. So if you have questions that are specific, or that you feel that you want to know particularly about, and will also help others learn, please do share. Again, like I mentioned earlier while Tolu was speaking, what you get here is not, you're not going to get where to invest as per, you can get suggestions, but you need to, one of the things you need to do when it comes to finance is do your due diligence. Make sure that you get advice here, but make sure that you go back and do your research. We have another session, not this one, that will be talking particularly about stocks. And the idea is one of the ways to build finance over time, over a long period of time, is by investing in stock. But again, a lot of people are not familiar with stock, and so we need to be taking over how to do that. And one of the options of that also helps, with being able to do stock well is what is a term, as opposed to you investing something at a time. You have like a budget where you are putting money in a particular asset class on a monthly basis, and then in the end you get an average. So however the market fluctuates, whether it's up or it's down, you're constantly investing in a place, and if you run that number over a period of time, if you're investing in a proper asset class, you are more guaranteed that you will get a good return on your investment. All right. So while we're waiting for Tolu to join, please ask your question.
Can you hear me? I've actually been back for a while.
Okay. Sorry. I need to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Welcome back.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so let me just quickly take that so that we can also wrap up. So with respect to the buy now pay later schemes, they are not bad, but just be very careful, do your due diligence, and be very clear as to the terms and conditions of that deal in such a way that at the end of the day, the rate that you're paying is actually not outrageous. I typically say if it's exceeding 25% in interest, is it really worth it? That's just what I tell people. Is it really worth it? If it's more than 25% per annum, is it really worth it? Then coming to how to spread cooperatives and things like that. One thing about cooperatives is you're not really earning interest on it. It's just the way that people come together and say, oh, we put funds together to support one of our own. When is your turn? You take the money and things like that. So there's really no interest that is being gained on that. But then there are savings platforms that do almost the same thing, and you actually gain interest on it. We have a couple of these fintech platforms that have stood the test of time. You could check them out. I'm wary about listing any names because I don't want something to happen that day you say it's Tolu. But yeah, there are savings platforms out there that you can actually take advantage of. Once you're just comfortable with any of them, you can just take advantage of them. One thing with them is it's easily liquidatable, and then you can also set targets for yourself and say, oh, every month. In fact, you can even automate it. This day of the month, remove this amount from my salary, you know, from my account, right? Some do daily withdrawals, some is weekly, some is monthly, some is biannually, whatever frequency works for you. It's also like the adjust system, and then you get to earn at least some interest on it, 6% per annum, 7% per annum, 8% per annum. Some offer as high as 10%, 13%, 14% per annum. So that's pretty fair in the scheme of things. So those are also avenues that can be considered. Then there is also mortgage for those that want to buy property. There is the mortgage opportunity. The mortgage system in Nigeria is still coming up, but a lot of people are beginning to take advantage of that. So that's also something that can be considered. I know a couple of people that are already, you know, using the schemes, 20 years, 30 years payment plan. You know, there are even some real estate companies that actually offer a long-term payment plan for properties that you get from them. So these are things that can be considered.
All right. Thank you very much. So we have two questions because I know we're already running over time. I have two questions, but I just want to first clarify the cooperative bit. So I think when I was speaking about cooperative in that sense, I was speaking more from the not the the turn by turn. So yeah, no.
Okay.
So there are typically a lot of I would say civil servants and then even some bigger establishments have cooperative schemes where
Union.
yeah, exactly. We would save up and then they are able to get a loan up to times two of the amount that they have put in. And
Yeah.
then I think there's even profit sharing at the end of each per annum. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, a lot of the startups that we have, I mean, which are also still trying to find build up, do not have that access because they don't have because you would need to be able to draw money from source and a couple of other things to be able to make sure that while people are taking up loans, you can ensure that you can draw that money back from source. That's what I was referring to. And I don't know, I think there are not people who don't have a lot of contemporary schemes that match those traditional ones. But my question now is, and it's just from one person, but I think it's quite important. So there's a person who has made an investment and has gotten people to invest in the idea. And so it's sort of like a middleman where I take money from people and then I reinvest it into another asset class, and then another asset class has crashed, and then people don't know the asset class. I'm the one that the people know, and the person is now indebted into tunes of over 40 million naira. I mean, that's like largely that. And the person is asking the question, what can I do? How do I get back? How do I raise money back? How do I, what do I do? So that's my question. The second one, somebody says, I have 1 million naira. I need to do business. What can I do business with? And I think the final one will be a parting shots for everyone in today's session.
Okay. For the 40 million person, I empathize with you. And yeah, it's sad, because then your integrity is at stake and everything like that. But what can be done? Practically, I would say find ways to make that money back. Genuinely, really, I'm really not a preacher of robbing Peter to pay Paul. So going to get more loans so that you can pay people off and everything, because then you're stuck and it's just an unending cycle. So it's just about finding creative, legal, genuine ways to actually make that money back. I typically advise people that run those sort of things to say, have an underlying asset, like have an asset that if anything goes wrong, you can liquidate, you can sell it, whether it's land or building, whatever it is. Have an asset that if anything goes wrong, you can sell it and pay people back. Because one thing you can never, one thing we should be very deliberate about protecting is our integrity because that is actually our biggest currency. A lot of people are going to deal with you on the basis of your personality and how much they trust you and all of that, right? So we need to do everything possible to make sure that that never comes into question. So my advice to this person would be make that money back. But really, I don't know what else to tell the person. Then for 1 million, what business can I do? It's you that can answer that question, really. There are a lot of business opportunities. there are a lot of ideas out there. You as a person, what are some of the business ideas that you have? Any one of them that you feel like you actually have the skill and the talent to run, and you have like the capacity to run. Go into it. You might not necessarily invest the whole 1 million. Maybe you want to test the waters, maybe with like 250K, for example, and then see how it goes. So that if it goes bad, then you have 750 that you can use to do other things, right? I'm just saying. So yeah, you can start small, and then let the business scale. As it grows, then you can now invest in other things, and you can add more money to it if you see that this is actually something that is booming. Now, parting words to everyone: it's never too late to start. I always say it's never too late to start. So people think that, oh, I'm 45, where do I start from? It's never too late to start. Whether you start at the age of 12 or 16 or 25 or 30 or 45, it's good to start from somewhere. And it's just about having a plan, sticking with it, and it's discipline. Growing wealth takes discipline. And like I said, it's very important to measure, because you can't manage what you don't measure. So we need to start keeping track of how our money comes in and how it goes out, so that we can be better financial stewards of our resources.
Wow, amazing.
Thank you.
I think that this session has been foundational, and I hope that for everyone on this call, that uh, for some people it's refresher, for some people it's new things, but whatever it is, just the most important thing is doing well to put these things to heart, and working with it, not from tomorrow but from today. I think that Tolu mentioned an app in the beginning for those that joined late, and I think it's very important. If you can help drop it again in the chat box, if someone can help us paste it, that would be very good. I'm trying to look for it so that I can drop it. More built. That to ensure that you're tracking your income and your expenses. Ensure that you're tracking your income and expenses. And that's like one of the most important things you can do. Whatever you're earning, make sure that you're saving however little it is, and also doing your very best to increasing your earning power. Another something that she did say is that invest in yourself. Beyond investing in any other asset class, make sure that you are investing in yourself. Um, I think one other thing is there are several investment plans that you should have, and then she did summarize them into two. But primarily, whether you're into low risk or high risk or short term and long term, make sure that you find what suits your investment, your risk appetite, and your current investment goal, and maximize that. And make sure that you're investing accurately. Track your investment, track your income, track your expenses, and do also protect your name. That's what you wanted to say. Protect your name. Make sure that you what's the word? Whatever you're doing, don't go into a shady business because you're trying to make money. In the end, reputation is something you want to keep, because once you lose your reputation, you become unbankable. Nobody wants to invest in you. And the number one person anybody will invest in is business, if it's anything, it's in you as a person. Do well to um, make sure that you're keeping your reputation intact. Finally, I would say that we would have another session. That's not the primary session for next year. And it's basically for those in diaspora who are looking to invest. But again, if you're in Nigeria and you're thinking of traveling out, or even want to just know more, you can also join. We're looking primarily at the property space in Nigeria, and also investment into the stock market. Building generational wealth sometimes requires that we don't just look at the short-term investments. And these are two asset class that, over time have been found to be uh, one of the some high risk and also low risk that you can begin to consider in terms of investment over a long period of time. All right. Does anyone have any question? I think we've taken the questions. So nobody have anything to say, you can just drop it in the chat box, or you can raise up your hand, and then we can bring today's session of conversations with Q to a close. How has the session been for you? Did you learn anything new? Yeah, let's use the chat box. So I don't feel like we're just learning and nobody's saying anything. I feel like I'm speaking to myself. Or you can raise up your hand and I will unmute you, I think.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I lost my network there.
Welcome back, Tolu.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. I believe you heard the pattern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we heard, we heard, we heard, we heard, we
All right
heard.
then.
We're just waiting for the thank yous from the participants as well. So be it for you, share, like I said, this is getting Tolu to be on this call is a miracle. This is my first prayer for 2022. Okay, someone is asking, Tolu, can you drop your handles or possible means of reaching out to you?
Okay, so I just dropped
Okay.
my handle. Yes, I am. It's Tolu anywhere across social media. Yeah.
All right. So you can reach out there. We would have more of this conversation. Next month might not be financial, but we have one financial pending, but different topics just to ensure that, like Tolu said, the best investment you can have is in yourselves. And the goal of these conversations with Q to ensure that the things that you need to know as you go along, you don't, you get to know them. Ahmad is saying, Ahmad, glad to have you on the call. These little things we often take for granted are really big. Thank you so much. Michael, thank you for joining today's session. I really appreciate. Samson Afolabi, your hand is up. So I would just, can you unmute or do I need to unmute you? Let me just go back. You can unmute, please unmute yourself. If not, I would unmute you. Okay, no, it's Olamide. Sorry, it's Olamide Afolabi.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much for this insightful session. I have two questions. So the first one, when you mentioned real estate, so I mean, my first question is like two in one, kind of. So for instance, I want to invest into real estate, and maybe I have a piece of land and I think that, okay, maybe to develop this land to what I want it to be, I would need like 100 million naira to do that. And is it advisable? I mean, so the land is for commercial purpose. Probably I want to build rented apartments. So is it advisable to get a mortgage for this 100 million naira? That's one. Then by calculating, okay, let's assume that at the end of the day, the land the building is built and everything is okay to be rented out. I mean, without looking at house increase, rental increase and the likes like that, just the baseline, it will take me at least 25 years to be able to make back my capital. Not talking about the bank rates, the interest rates the bank will be paying me, and of course for maintenance and the likes like that. So at this stage, where exactly do I break even? That's one question. Then the second question is when you were talking about about increasing your earning potential and also saving, like two ways where you can I mean financial increase and the likes like that. For instance, let's assume that I am in a country where I have to pay tax, and I'm so blessed that I got another job in another country, but the law in the country where I reside says I pay tax over all my earnings. So which means that the job I got in the other country, I have to remit the tax to where I live. But after remitting the tax, what I have left is little to nothing. What in this case, do you think that there's going to be, I mean, there's a legal way around it? Or I should just face the one job I have in the country where I live and just manage what I have, basically? Thank you.
All right. Tolu. Hi,
All right.
Tolu.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
Okay, I
me?
wanted to feel you're still here. Okay, can I hear you?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, thanks Olamide for those questions. I can help with one. The other one that would take a tax specialist in the region that you're talking about, because I mean I don't know what company or rather what country that is, so I might not be able to help in that regard. However, when it comes to the land that you're looking to develop, so yes, a mortgage is an opportunity that you can consider, and then you can also consider getting a loan from a bank. Bank loans, I mean, commercial bank loan rates can be a bit of a lot. But another financing opportunity you can consider would also be, excuse me, personal, like getting personal investors. But it just depends on the network you have and how accessible that is for you. But those are the three things that you can consider. So getting a mortgage, getting a commercial loan, or getting a loan from family and friends. So that's one. With respect to, I'm working in another country remotely and I need to pay tax to them. I mean, different countries have their different tax laws. So someone that would be, that will be able to help better with that would be someone in that country that is actually very familiar with the tax rules. They might be able to find legal ways for you to avoid some tax payments. There is, I don't know if you know, but there is a difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is completely legal. It's just the way that you find, you find the holes in the tax laws and then you beat it. It's completely legal, but tax evasion is where the problem is. So you could get a tax consultant there that can advise you accordingly and actually even help to say, how do you spread your work time? How do you spread the earnings in such a way that at the end of the day, your tax exposure is going to be very minimal, because other countries are actually very heavy when it comes to tax payments. So that's one thing that I can advise with respect to that. You asked a question about earnings and savings, but I did not get the third one. So if you could please just put it in the chat room, please, and I can take it after.
Okay. All right. For those asking the question about the recording, I hope that answers the question, Olamide. And for those asking about the recording will be made available for us to access. I will share the link to everyone. I mean, I have the email address of everyone on this call. So the recording will be made available for us to access. Says all of our questions have been answered. The first question about how to beat double-digit inflation in Nigeria, I think that has been answered, but I don't know if you want to just give one word or I don't know about it, but I think we addressed it already.
Okay, so with respect to beating inflation, there are some things that that we can do. First point of call is investing in the real economy. Right, because for example, in the agri space, as inflation is rising, the cost of food is rising. So that is also something, that is one way that one can beat inflation. Apart from investing in agriculture, investing in like other real economy investments that can be considered, looking at my real estate, right? Really, I just typically advise investing in the real economy to beat inflation, because when you invest in the financial space, whatever naira value it is that you are gaining is being eroded by the inflation. But when you invest in the real economy, it sort of balances it out, or sometimes it even exceeds it, because the increase in the rate of commodities in the real market typically exceed the rate of inflation, because vendors are looking to cover up for the inflation rate. So that is one thing that can be considered. Another way is investing in foreign currency. So investing in the US stock exchange, for example, if you're able to find a way around it, that's something that you can do. You're able to address that inflationary pressure. Someone asked what real economy. So real economy just means dealing with commodity markets, essentially. So tangible assets, tangible items, dealing in that market. That is essentially what it is. So those are the two ways that I typically think about when it comes to beating inflation.
All right, thank you very much. All right, is there any other question? If there are none, I think that, like I said, the question around real estate and stock exchange, we would have another session where we'll try and sort of deep dive into it more, particularly for those in diaspora and even those in Nigeria, what they can consider, and see how we can work on this. Tolu, you don't know how excited I am having you on this call. Like
So
testimony
I
of
have a
saying that.
question.
Oh, okay.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Tolu. Thank you very much for the amazing
Sorry,
session.
just a minute.
So I want to.
Sorry, just a minute. Once I start saying thank you to Tolu, that's the end. If you have any question, raise up your hand now. So that there are no spontaneous questions coming up after that of Femi. All right, go ahead, sir.
Yes, so I just need some clarity around the difference between ETFs and index, right? So I know that they are somewhat similar, right? But then could you just help, put some light regarding that? And then, of course, I know you're trying not to give financial advice, but then which of them would you recommend as much as possible? Thank you.
Okay, so just so sure I heard that clearly, you talked about ETFs and index. Do you mean stock market index?
Yes.
Yes, that's what
Okay.
it's.
Okay, all right. Just to be clear. So ETFs, honestly, I can't remember the full meaning, but I know it's something traded funds. I can't remember what the E is right now, but my understanding of it is it's like getting bite-sized versions of stock exchange, like stock markets. So index is the typical, that's like the whole in the, yes, so exchange traded funds. Thank you. So the index itself is like that's the whole thing in the stock market. But what ETFs do for you is, I mean, if a stock is trading for say 250 naira, for example, and someone is just trying to get just a portion of it, then they are broken down into, their organizations that help to break it down into ETFs, right? And it's like, it's underlying. So it's what's the word now? It is backed by the index itself. So when it comes to advising which you should go for, I really cannot advise which, because it depends on what you're looking for. So some people typically prefer to trade ETFs because that is what they can afford, especially if they are trying to break into the S&P or, into the NYSE, for example. All those 4,500 companies that are traded. And because of the fact that, maybe you're not able to, you don't want to face the risk of actually investing fully in the stock market, then you can trade in ETFs to minimize your risk exposure, because then the ETF is backed by the stock market, but then you are not necessarily exposed to the risk of dealing in the stock market directly. I hope that's clear. So it depends on your risk level. If you want to deal with the stock market directly, you can go ahead and do that. But if you also want to trade in the ETF versions as well, you can also go ahead and do that. So people typically prefer ETFs because the risk is lower, and then you get an opportunity to actually afford portions of the larger stock without having to pay for it in full.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Does
you.
that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you.
And for those that don't know what it means, come for the next session. You would get more about the stock market. Once again, this time, I think there are no questions, so I can say my thank you for making our time to be a part of this session. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure that everyone as well, has learned greatly. We hope that when next we have, reach out to you to also, come, we'll be available to share from your wealth of experience and your knowledge. Once again, thank you very much, and we look forward to other engagement. And for everyone that joined this, this session, in this busy session, I totally understand and all of that. Thank you for joining, and we'll be in touch, with sharing the recording and also subsequent sessions. Once again, happy holidays to everyone, and talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Happy holidays.